Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted that number 1 would be Captain America Brave New World, number 2 would be The Monkey, number 3 would be The Unbreakable Boy, number 4 would be Paddington in Peru, and number 5 would be Heart Eyes. And man, we were doing so good, 1 and 2, got those right, and then, man, I put too much faith in Zachary Levi. I'm probably not the first person to have said that. I only got 2 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. Nobody else got their predictions right because a certain movie from last weekend that kind of, surprised me as well held over very well. Also, just a quick reminder to get your predictions in as close to the video upload as possible. I'm kind of doing like a firm Wednesday's the last day you can do it kind of thing. So yeah, let's just move right into the top 10 after that quick reminder, something that I got to do every once in a while, but that's all right. Number 1 was once again Captain America Brave New World, and the question on everyone's mind was, okay, it had a solid start, but, we needed to hold over well. We needed to continue to have legs and keep growing after the, President's Day weekend, Valentine's weekend kind of holiday event that it had. It needs to grow. It needs to have a solid word of mouth, and it was looking like it was going to face a bit of an uphill battle because the critic score on Rotten Tomato wasn't great, and the audience score was decent, and then cinema score was a B-, not the worst grade you could get. Obviously, Joker's, broken records off of that, right? But as far as like the MCU, that is kind of the worst grade you could get, for most audiences, that is teetering on worst grade you could get. But we've seen movies rebound with having kind of like lower kind of scores like that on cinema score. So it was just up to the people. What are people going to do this weekend? It's not like there's a whole lot of competition other than The Monkey, but The Monkey's like a complete, that's not the big blockbuster superhero action crowd taking away from Captain America, completely different thing. And The Unbreakable Boy never had a chance. Sorry, Zachary Levi. No, fuck that guy. Anyways, it did not hold over great though, this movie. Last weekend, the 3-day weekend opened to 87 million, dropped down to 28 million. For those of you that were wondering, yes, believe it or not, that is over 50% drop. Like that's going into 60s, teetering into 70% drop off. Everything that, people were kind of saying, like, I don't know if this is a good score, as far as like the stats from Cinema Score, Rotten Tomatoes. Good call. Like people are still going to the theaters to see it, obviously, but not in the same amount of droves, or at least the necessary ones to get to a solid point financially. It made 28 million this weekend, so domestically it is sitting at 141 million. I wanted to mention the MCU stuff really quick. I didn't mention it last weekend because talking about like the opening weekend stuff was just like abysmal. I like had a fucking heart attack looking at all the movies. But it did outgross domestically The Marvels by 57 million, and it just squeaked by The Incredible Hulk by 7 million. It's now sitting behind Eternals by 23 million. I think it'll get there. So it's gonna, it's like a lot of these other MCU movies that did not do well, had really big drop-offs. I think it will be one of the higher grossing ones out of those. I don't think it's gonna next weekend is kind of a dry weekend as well. So I if I'm gonna spoil what one of my predictions is, I think it'll still be number 1. But I can't imagine this continuing to, rebound after that. Just drifting out here. As far as the Captain America films, it's only behind that by 35 million. So I think the first Avenger. So I think after it outgrosses Eternals, that's where the first Captain America film is. But the fact that it had this big weekend where it was like, okay, if they, have a steady course here, they could, outpace that first Captain America. And now it's kind of looking like, ooh, you might barely squeak by it. That's embarrassing, to say the least. Worldwide, it is sitting at 289 million. Previously, we had talked about how the initial production budget was listed at 180 million. So if you go by the doubling point rule that we always talk about, it needs about 71 million in order to break even to double that budget. And I think it'll get that. But considering the, reshoots that were rumored, the things that they changed throughout, the delays with the SAG-AFTRA and Writers Guild strikes, you know what I mean? It just seems like it definitely needs a lot more than just the doubling point to break even, you know? I don't know if they're even accounting for marketing. They probably aren't. So who knows if even getting to that doubling point is a win. As far as the MCU, it did outgross the Marvels' worldwide run by 90 million and the Incredible Hulks by 24. The next film it needs to outgross isn't Eternals, like the domestic numbers. It's Captain America: The First Avenger. It needs 81 million to get there. So yeah, not necessarily in the best of spots right now. You know, I think it's about to make just enough to get a little bit over its initial production budget, but considering everything we know about what goes into the marketing, what goes into the reshoots, post-production of all these big budget movies, you know, I do not think that you can look at this as necessarily a big win. You know, it does give me flashbacks to 2 years ago when Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania came out in February, and it was like, okay, it had the highest opening weekend for any Ant-Man film so far, so let's see if they can, you know, keep that up, and then they just nosedived, you know what I mean? They technically, you know, they squeak by, if I'm remembering correctly, they squeak by whatever their initial production budget was listed at, but like we're talking about right now, you know, the hidden stuff with these big blockbuster movies that they don't tell you, you know. Ah, man, it's such a bummer, you know. It was really, despite how I feel about the movie, you know, I'm sure this is like such a huge bummer for like Anthony Mackie. You know, this is his time in the spotlight, the movie that he is leading for the first time and taking on the mantle of Captain America. And it's just not resonating with people. I don't think it's purely just, I know there are some people that are boycotting it for many different reasons, actually, not just one thing. But I know that a lot of those voices can be pretty loud, but I do not think it's entirely just that, you know what I mean? Like if you've seen my review, you know, I think I did a solid job of breaking down, me personally, the kind of viewer that I am, what didn't really sit well with me as far as like filmmaking, as far as screenwriting, and there's plenty of other people that probably feel the same exact way. So I think this is just a movie that's just not resonating because this is one of those slapped together Marvel Disney products, you know what I mean? I'm hoping for a better era. Anyways, number 2 was The Monkey, which is Neon's like second best opening weekend ever behind Longlegs, which is also Osgood Perkins, the director of both films, which is that's just so cool. It made 14 million this weekend. There's no worldwide totals to bump it up, but since this is reported to be on a budget of 10 to 11 million, I'm going to assume that they're really happy with this opening here, and I think, you know, they'll make just enough to get over that. I don't think this is going to have the same kind of run that Longlegs did, the same kind of holding power. That'd be great if it did. But I think they're in a good spot where, you know, they have a solid opening weekend. They only need a couple million more until they've, you know, reached a doubling point. So I think they're in a pretty good spot there. As far as Oz Perkins' opening weekends, it is 14 million over Blackcoat's Daughter and 8 million over Gretel and Hansel. It's just 8 million below Longlegs, as we have discussed. Yeah, this is his second highest opening weekend for him as well, not just Neon. I was going to mention his Netflix film, I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. Or is it The Walls? No, it's I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. I was going to mention that just for laughs. Not going to because it was a long title to write down in my notes. But it didn't have an opening weekend, so I don't know why I'm doing any of this. Anyways, it did outgross Blackcoat's Daughter, is very limited domestic run by 14 million. It only needs 1 million until it squeaks by the Gretel and Hansel run. So there you go. It outgrossed, you know, a great film from Oz, and it's about to outgross a film of his that I don't really like. the only film of his I don't like. So that's just really cool. Another solid win for Oz Perkins right here. And he's got another film coming out, I think it's September, once again with Tatiana Maslany. It's just a really great time to be a fan of Oz Perkins like myself. So this is just really exciting. You know, we go from like a big blockbuster dud, and then you go into like the small scale horror scene. And you get some good wins like this, and that's pretty cool. I say horror, and I don't want anyone to be confused, because I guess for some reason some people are really confused about the type of movie it is. It's a horror comedy, not a Longlegs horror serial killer movie. It's a horror comedy. And the amount of, quick tangent, the amount of fucking people, and, you know, whether it's your thing or not, you know, that's completely up to you. That's, you know, subjective, whatever. But the amount of people that I've seen kind of be like, this movie is tonally confused. Like, it's like they don't know what they want to be. And it's like, it's so aggravating, just a quick tangent, so aggravating to see people, like, just so confidently say something that is so wrong. Like, I don't know how you got totally confused from a movie that is like so consistently trying to be a gag. You know what I mean? That's the end of my discussion about The Monkey. I love the movie. Go check it out. Number 3 is Paddington in Peru, making 6.5 million, adding to a domestic total of 25 million. So domestically, it needs 15 million until it outgrosses Paddington 2. Worldwide, it is sitting at 150 million right now, so it needs about 91 million until it gets to Paddington 2. It also needs about 30 million more until it doubles its initial production budget of 90 million. I'm not sure if domestically is the only other place it needs to collect money from at this point. We've talked about how it's been out in like the UK for a little bit at this point, but I'm not sure where else it needs to be released. It's almost kind of looking like this will shape up to be the lowest grossing Paddington film, which is, you know, a little bit of a bummer, and made a bit more of a bummer that the budget is reportedly so huge like this. But, you know, people are still checking it out right now, so maybe there's a chance that it continues to hold over. And next weekend is another dry weekend, so I think there is a chance for this one to still have a steady enough hold to keep adding to that. So that would just be something I would like to see. It's just so close, you know. I would like to see it double that initial production budget, unless it's fine. Then we're good. Number 4 is Dogman, making 5.9 million, adding to a domestic total of 78 million. For DreamWorks Animation, it did outgross the original Spirit film by 5 million, as well as Captain Underpants, which, by the way, that and Dogman are both Dave, I think it's Dav Pilkey, Dave or Dav, D. Pilkey adaptations. I think the fact that it did outgross it domestically, at least, is a good indicator for DreamWorks. Like, oh yeah, this one is outgrossed that one. It's outpacing that other one that we did of this guy's work. So that's probably cool to them. It now needs 5 million until it outgrosses Turbo and Penguins of Madagascar. Worldwide, it did cross over the 100 mil point, sitting at 104 million right now. It is still here, at least, behind the original Spirit worldwide by 2 million. So just a little bit more and it'll get over there. I think more importantly, it needs about 16 million until it triples its initial production budget of 40 million. It did already get past the doubling point, so as far as our show's standards go, you know, it's in the clear. But I'm still, it's, you know, collecting a decent amount. And I think I've even talked about, like, I'm not expecting like wild robot numbers here for DreamWorks and Dogman. I still feel like this probably could have gotten a lot more, and I'm not exactly sure if maybe my expectations are wrong, or maybe there is some kind of disconnect that I'm missing. Either way, it's probably fine. I don't need to talk about it anymore. Number 5 is Ne Zha 2, the movie we talked about last weekend. Still sticking around here, making 3.0 million, adding to a domestic total of 14.8. I think last weekend when I mentioned the worldwide total, they didn't have all the numbers, because right now it is sitting at $1.841 billion. Like I was saying, you know, it's one of the highest grossing animated films, or films in general, you know what I mean, coming from China. So that's just really cool, you know. Last weekend I put in that comment that had all the stats, and I didn't save it, so you're gonna have to go back to that other video to see it if you want to see all the other things, or you could just look it up as far as like what records it's broken and all that. But it's really cool, you know, it's really cool stuff. Anyways, number 6 is Heart Eyes, making 2.8 million, adding to a domestic total of 26 million. Yeah, I was saying I was hoping that this one could still hold over well after the Valentine's Day bump it got. Not necessarily the case, not that I'm too surprised. I think it's just worldwide it only bumps up to 27 million, that entire total, and since they have not technically gotten to the doubling point of its initial production budget of 18 million, I would just like to see it just hold on even more domestically. Now, you know, it's in the single digits, and last weekend it made 10 million, now we're down to 2. It just, I wish people could just keep seeing this. I know it's past Valentine's Day at this point, but come on, people, it's still a good movie. I know The Monkey did just come out, so as far as like the horror crowd, and then especially the comedy crowd, the horror comedy crowd, it kind of took some audience from that, but still, you know, it's still a good movie, and I hope some people still give it a chance. I think the budget is low enough where if they don't necessarily cross over the doubling point here, you know, as far as like video on demand sales, or, you know, DVD, Blu-ray sales, whatever, they'll probably, you know, get some kind of profit back from that. Especially because I think a lot of people are going to keep discovering this when it becomes available on home video. People are going to be like, oh, this is awesome, you know, I should have seen this in the theaters or something like that, and share clips of it, how funny it is. So yeah, I look forward to that. At least. Number 7, I almost started recording this video, but then I checked Box Office Mojo, and there's a new film here. Number 7 is Chava I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, but it made 2.6 million, adding to a domestic total of 4.8 million. Worldwide, it's only bumped up to 5.9 there. This is on a budget of 130 to 140 crore. So there you go. Obviously not breaking the records that Najat 2 has. But, it got into the top 10 nonetheless, and that's cool. Number 8 is Mufasa the Lion King. Technically, this movie and number 9 have tied, making the same amount, at least right now with the estimates. I just thought it would be funnier to put this movie above what is going to be at number 9, and you'll see why in a second. But this one did make 2.5 million, adding to a domestic total of 245 million. So that places it 298 million away from the 2019 film domestically. Worldwide, it is sitting at 698 million, which places it 963 million away from the 2019 one. I have nothing else to say about this movie, so let's just get to the thing you're probably curious about. What was number 9? What's tying with Mufasa that you want to list under Mufasa because you think it's funnier? It shouldn't be surprising. It's the Unbreakable Boy. It's Zach Levi, everybody. It's old Zachary. Oh my goodness. Yeah, this guy cannot catch a break as far as like his box office bombs. Obviously, though, there's no production budget listed, and I don't think this is, or at the very least, I hope it's not of the same number as Harold and the Purple Crayon or Shazam 2, right? If I'm gonna estimate based on like Kingdom Story Company, maybe 5 to 10. But I don't know, maybe Zachary Levi was like, I want all the money in the world and I'm going to lose my fucking mind. But yes, it is also estimated to make 2.5 million this weekend, and there's no worldwide totals to bump it up. Let's talk about Kingdom Story Company as far as its opening weekends. It is 2 million over Jesus Music and 1 million over White Bird. But that being said, it is also 4 million below Ordinary Angels, 5 million below Unsung Heroes, 7 million below I Still Believe, 8 million below Best Christmas Pageant Ever, and 13 million below Jesus Revolution. And the fucking kicker, right? It's 1 million, just 1 million shy of the opening weekend for American Underdog, another Zachary Levi film. Oh my god. Domestically, it did outgross Jesus Music by 1 million and now sits behind White Bird by 3 million. I'm just clowning on Zachary Levi. Subject matter, whatever. That's not necessarily what I'm focusing on. It's Zach Levi. He fucking sucks. So cringy, my guy. They're just the worst dude these days. And I think it's just funny that he constantly keeps getting box office misfortune. I can't believe I predicted this to get to number 3. I should have known better. The Levi curse is strong. Anyways, closing out the video, number 10, One of Them Days, making 1.4 million, adding to a domestic total of 46 million. This is just continuing to be awesome. We didn't get to a quadruple point for this initial production budget of 14 million, but we tripled it. You know what I mean? We did pretty well. There's no worldwide totals to bump it up either, but similar to Hard Eyes, I think this is a movie that, it did pretty well in the theaters. Actually, technically better than what Hard Eyes did, actually. So it did well here, and I think it's just going to continue to do well with people discovering it later and talking about it. Like, I wish I saw this in the theater. I was cackling, whatever. So there you go. Just despite, the Captain America bombs and Zachary Levi bombing and Mufasa doing surprisingly well for no reason, we still got some good news here and there. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I think, will be once again Captain America Brave New World, like I mentioned. Number 2, I do think will be Last Breath, just squeaking up in there. Number 3, I think will be The Monkey. Number 4, Paddington in Peru. And then number 5, Dog Man. But what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.